Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golf Course Lawn Show. My name is Ron Henry, and I'm here to help answer your lawn care questions. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. Super happy to have you here. The way this works is really simple. On your screen, you will see a chat box, and in that chat box, you can enter your question, concern, comment of the day, and I work through them in the order that they come in. Now, sometimes I have the answer, sometimes I do not, but either way, we have an awesome time talking about lawn care and sometimes life. So happy New Year, everyone. Hopefully everyone made it through the through December 31st into January 1st without too much incidents. You know, everyone's still got all their digits, all their fingers, toes. No one blew anything off. And tonight's a special night. It's our first live stream of the year. So again, happy New Year to everyone. And we have a guest. We have Devin. He's been on the live stream before. So he's here to help answer any of your cool season questions or any other questions you may have about, you know, maybe doing a green at home or anything like that. So should be a good time. Let me go ahead and switch over and bring him in so we can make this happen. And there we go. Devin, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. Happy New Year. Good to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, likewise. So your holidays have been good. You guys covered up in snow, I imagine, in Colorado Springs?
Yeah, it just is finally starting to melt off now down to the grass. We had like 36 inches in November, and then we've had a couple 1-footers since then. So, but we're finally melting off. We've had a pretty warm stretch. It was actually 60 degrees today, and I actually watered in my backyard today, just with the impact sprinkler since everything's blown out. But more snow coming, I think Saturday night that we might get like 4 or 6 inches, which will be all right for the golf course though. Then we don't have to do any winter watering, which is nice.
Right. Okay. I hear you. Very cool. So guys, as always, again, you guys answer questions. We work through them in the order they come in. Again, I've got some pictures queued up, but again, big thing is any questions you guys have, we'll just go through them in the order they come in. Again, you have an expert in the live stream tonight as far as any questions you have about golf, about doing greens at home. You know, one of the questions I had, or a viewer emailed and asked me to run by Devin, so he's trying to build a green at home, and I guess he's got a lot of budget. He wanted to know the pros and cons of like core aeration versus getting his hand on like a drill and fill machine. So I said, I'll have to. I'm like, do you have access to get one of those? He's like, yeah. I mean, I'll be able to. So he's gonna be able to get one. So just which what's the pros and cons of each, and I guess we can chat about it. Okay, so let's see what we have in the live stream this evening. Now, guys, if you're on Instagram, it's not going to be a great experience for you tonight. As you can see, like literally the video is like halfway cut in half. So you can hear me talk, you can see Devin talk, but we're probably not a great night for any folks on Instagram. So if you want to be part of the show, come over to YouTube, come over to Meta, because that way you'll be able to see us properly. All right, first up, we have our first question comes from Cooper. It's a good one. He says, "Good evening, Ron. What do the percentages on pre-emergent mean? For example, Prodiamine says 0.38%, while Dimension says 0.15%. Is this percentage important?" Yeah, so good question. So the 0.38 is the percentage of the product that is the active ingredient. So in case of Prodiamine, so it's 0.38, or a little over a third of a percent of of what's in that bag is the active ingredient. And then for Dimension, where the active ingredient is dithiopyr, it's like 0.15%. Is the percentage important? Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple different schools of thought about this. If you were formulating a product where the target audience is, say, a homeowner, right? Where they're going to be using a broadcast spreader and maybe they don't have the most precise equipment, creating a formulation that is perhaps a bit less concentrated, where you're putting it out at, say, 3, 4, 5 pounds per thousand is better for that market than, say, if you went to like a higher percentage formulation of the same product, which a professional applicator may like, but is the margin for error for getting a good result is narrower. So to answer your question, does it matter? For your purposes, not really. As long as you follow what's on the bag, and it says, if the label says X number of pounds per 1,000 square feet to control these weeds, if you do that, you're going to be just fine. So I don't know, Devin, if you want to weigh in at any thoughts on it.
Yeah, that was a pretty good description of that. So yeah, essentially that higher percentage, you'll be applying less products. You have more active ingredient in whatever amount you're putting out, versus like the 0.15, you'll need more product with that lesser ingredient to cover the area you're applying it to. So yeah, pretty much like what you were saying, it just kind of whatever you need.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that helps, Cooper. Big thing is just follow the label. If you follow the label, you're going to be good to go. That's the big thing. And then you say the more / higher percentage of active ingredient, the less application rate. Is this a true statement? Typically, yes.
Yep.
That's typically that's correct. Yep. All right. So cool. So so it's been a lot going on in the past year for you, Devin. I mean, you guys have gotten I think you're married. It's been over a year yet? Not quite. It's been a year.
Yep, September of 23. So we just had a year in September.
Yeah, so got married, and then the new house, and then of course, I mean, the thing that everyone wants to know about, the lawn, right? So I know you sent some pictures in of the lawn and the snow cover and everything. So if you guys stay tuned in the live stream, we'll be showing those a little bit later. Sent me some really cool pictures. So the lawn's looking pretty incredible, as you would imagine for someone that works on turf grass for a living. I mean, he held it to a higher standard. All right, question from Aaron Pate. He says, "Ron, can I run the lawnmower over my dormant lawn to mulch up the leaves?" Yeah. I mean, but I personally think it depends on how heavy we're talking about. Like I have a picture here for a blog that we did on this very topic that kind of illustrates it. So I can give you my opinion on it. So let's see where is it? I think it's going to be on this page. Yeah. So if your lawn looks like the lawn in the background where you're fairly light, I don't really see a huge issue with mulching it. If it looks like what's in the foreground, I would get some of that off. I think you're just putting way too much material into the lawn, especially if you're going to be doing that all the time. Let's say you're only going to look like this in the foreground and you did it like one time, wouldn't be necessarily as bad. But if you're going to be doing it over and over and over, I'm not a huge fan of doing that. I guess in your area, Devin, I'm not sure if you guys have trees or not, but what do you I guess what are your thoughts as far as that goes for like, again, running over, like mulching stuff back into the lawn or not?
Yeah, I guess for where we live, if your lawn's dormant and your soil's frozen, it's probably best just kind of stay off of it regardless. It's not growing, so it really doesn't matter if you have that coverage. It's probably actually beneficial to kind of give it a little insulation and kind of a little coverage through winter. But yeah, in the fall time, like you were saying, if it looked like that second photo where it's just like very very thick, I would probably remove that and bag it. But if it's a
Mm-hmm.
little thinner and you're still mowing and still growing, then you're probably good to mulch it. But yeah, I don't think I would do that all the time as well. But yeah, like in the we have a couple holes out on the course where we have big cottonwoods and those fairways, and that rough just gets covered
Mm-hmm.
throughout winter, late fall, and we don't really do anything to it. It just sits there until we do spring cleanup, and
I got you. And then
everything
just get it
gets
all off.
we just blow it off into the native. Yep.
Nice, nice. So question on the topic of like golf courses or greens, because one of the questions that a viewer sent to me says, hey, whenever he comes on, I got to ask him because I guess this guy's got either more money than sense or has access to equipment that most people can't have access to. Where he says, I want to either invest in a pro core or I can get, I have access to be able to get a drill and fill machine to come over and work on my greens. And I think what he's trying to do is do a renovation because the green that he had or that's there had been neglected. So I don't know. I guess is it something you guys have ever used, like drill and fill machines, or do you probably stick with core aeration?
Yep. We've never used our at any of the courses I've ever been at. We've never used the drill and fill. I've seen guys who use it on like Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it nowadays, and it looks pretty cool. I mean, essentially, you just drills right down, and then that sand goes right into the profile. So that's pretty beneficial there if that's what you're aiming for. But I know it's a pretty time consuming process,
Mm-hmm.
and usually they bring in bags of dried sand, so it smooth or runs smoothly through that machine. We always just use 648s, and then you kind of have more options if you want to do solid tines, what size tines you want to do, if you want to use hollow tines, how big of those diameters. So they both have pros and cons. I guess it just really depends on what he wants to do and what his end goal would
And
be for it.
goals. And let's say someone is trying to, they are going to do a green at home, and I guess they want to maintain it at the same level as what you would maintain on a golf course. If you were built out properly, I mean, in your guys' case, how often do you find that you have to aerate and put sand back into it to help dilute that organic material to keep it from getting too spongy? I guess how often do you guys tend to aerate per season?
Twice a year, so spring and fall, we do it,
Okay.
and then we do two different types of testing on them for that OM percentage, and the tests do it in increments. So it's 246, the measurement through the root zone, and that tells us how much sand we need to apply, how deep we need to go, how big the holes need to be to dilute that to keep the greens healthy.
Gotcha. Okay. But for someone that's doing like I guess back of the napkin math, like they get it done twice a year, they're gonna be in the ballpark.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. So person that was asking, there you go. There's your answer. All right. Question from Vahid Navi. I believe Vahid hails from the Great White North from Canada. He says Happy New Year, and he says, "What is your opinion about Barenbrug Yellow Jacket Turf Perennial Ryegrass?" I've never used it, so hopefully Devin has a thought on it.
I've never used it either. I've heard it's like a really good product. I've never used that specific type of ryegrass. We have a ryegrass we use at the courses. Ryegrass is great, fast establishment. You just got to take into account the rates for it are usually pretty high since it's a bunch type to get good coverage. But I think a lot of the new ryegrass have like a kind of a tillering capability now. Not as aggressive as like a bluegrass or a fescue, but or like not a fescue or a bent grass, but yeah, ryegrass is good. Never used the yellow jacket perennial ryegrass, but I'm sure it's probably a really good product. And I know Barenbrug makes really good seed too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a cool season lawn, but I always just recommend go look at Barenbrug's offerings, and I have yet to have anyone that could write me back and say, "Oh man, I tried this stuff out and it was horrible." So everyone's been pretty happy with it. So I'm sure there are other blends too, but that's a good safe bet. All right. Question for Jason for Devin from Jason Harrison. He says, "Evening, friends. Devin, can you talk more about silica? Is there a silica product you like that Ron should add to the store, or maybe he already has?"
Yeah, silica is a really good product, and I don't think a lot of people talk about it. It's probably something that most people don't ever even consider. It has a lot of good benefits. It essentially, when you apply it, it strengthens the cell walls and the cells within the plant. So it reduces evaporation, helps. retain moisture, retain nutrients, just more heat hardy, stress hardy. Um, as far as a product that would be available, I have a product I use, but there's no point in sharing it because I'm 100% sure it's not available to public market.
Okay.
And I think you'd probably be best just Googling Amazon or see if there's a silica product that you can spray on plants or turf, whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, yeah. Jason, I know you keep asking about that. I'll talk to the folks at Miramichi and see. While you can, Essential G has silica in it. That's what I've got for you. And we've got. I last time I checked, there's like a little over 100 bags left. So that's going to be gone soon. And when it's gone, it's gone. So if you want a product with some silica in it, it's a pin comment in the live stream. But yeah, it is worth it because I mean, talk to your point, Devin. When many moons ago, I think it was in 2021, whenever they released Essential G, 2020 or 2021, whatever it was. And I asked them about that, and they said one of the big benefits they see is reduced disease issues in the grass. It just overall just helps the plant
Yep.
be a lot hardier. So yeah. So yeah, it's a good point, Jason. I will have to do some digging and see what is possible, because also it's not just finding the product. It's to Devin's point, it's also getting something that can be registered and can be applied on residential lawns and is easy to do. So it's just, there's more than just finding a product. There's a whole lot of other stuff that goes into it. But I'll do some digging.
And I think silica, it's one of those nutrients where a little goes a long way. Like the
Mm-hmm.
stuff I use, it comes out of a 2.5 gallon jug, and it's a 2% active ingredient. And I think the rate is 0.5 to 1 ounces per thousand. So it doesn't
Wow,
doesn't
didn't take
take
a
very
lot.
much at all. And that's every 14 to 21 days application.
Yep. It's a good point. And Jason, to kind of go along with that, if you look at the amount of silicon that's in Essential G, it's like 5%. So it is the smallest, or the smallest nutrient in the analysis. So it didn't take a whole lot of the stuff to get a good result. I'm really excited Essential G is going away, to let you guys know. I mean, carbonized PNG, I've got some of it, and it's a great product. You guys are going to really like it. The one benefit, I'd say not necessarily one, but one of the noticeable benefits of it is the pearl size. They've been able to make it smaller, so it's closer to like a greens grade pearl, which is kind of nice.
That's
But
nice.
yeah, it's going to be. I mean, you guys are going to like it. It's going to produce a good result. And we're going to be able to get it, which is important. All right, next up is Robert Thomas. He says, "Evening, gang. I am not in a place to irrigate my lawn regularly, so I've come to realize I need to overseed in the spring and fall, and recommendations if I'm overseeding in both seasons." Okay, so if you can't irrigate your lawn regularly, how are you going to establish the grass seed? And I guess I'm trying to understand, like, how does overseeding solve the problem of not being able to irrigate? I guess you're gonna seed the lawn, it'll grow in, and then it'll just die off because you're not gonna be able to water it, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess the only advice I can tell you, Robert, is if you're going to be doing that, I guess you're going to be avoiding pre-emergent, since you're going to be seeding in both season. But if it were me, I might look at a way of like just increasing the water you can put on the lawn. That would be my recommendation. But all right, cool. Next up is Mel Allen. He says, "Howdy, lawn care folks. Hope all is well. Glad to be here. Glad you're here, Mel. Appreciate you." And then Jackie Bear says, "Happy New Year, all." And Mr. Cooper says, "Mr. Ron, Happy New Year," and to everybody in the chat. All right. So Devin, so let's talk a little bit about your lawn. So I have a bunch of pictures here, starting from where it was looking nice to when it got to be snow covered. So you can kind of walk us through. I guess, are you at the point now where you're happy with the lawn? Any new plans for it for next season, or you're pretty much you're good with it?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm definitely going to top dress again this spring. So I've got that all planned. So I'm going to be doing that again. And a lot of these pictures were like late July, early August. So kind of getting towards like the good portion of our season.
Oh, nice.
So that one looked good. And I think that one I liked. That I went out that morning, and it was the morning after I had done a foliar spray. So it really had that really
That
good
pop.
deep dark green look to it. Yeah. Which
And then this is
awesome.
Kentucky bluegrass, right? Or is it?
Yep. So there's all Kentucky bluegrass. I think I have 8 different varieties in there.
Wow. Okay, so that's an interesting point. So this is I can get more learned on this. when it comes to cool season grasses, it seems like it's a common thing that you, as far as blends, that you don't typically find. I mean, you can get like a single strain, a single cultivar, but it seems like a lot of blending where you have multiple types of grass seed in the bag seems to be a really common way. What's the pros and cons of that? Is it disease resistance, or like what's the reason why you typically will find multiple different types of grass seed in a product?
Yeah, I think it's just you can take characteristics from each one,
Mm,
and as long as like leaf blade and texture is good, and they kind of all will look similar when they're growing together, you can just have the benefits of everything instead of having one thing, one mono stand, which could be affected by disease or not as drought resistant. You can have a whole bunch of different other ones in there that all have like really good characteristics and will keep it looking good no matter like kind of what the environmental factors are at
nice.
any given time.
So overall, just like a more hardy stand. You get pretty much getting all the benefits with hopefully none of the downsides.
Yep.
Cool. Cool. All right. So we got this. This is sweet, man. And so right now, this you're mowing with your Greensmaster in these, or what are you working with?
Yep. Yep. So that's still the GM 1000, and that's at 3/4 of an inch. And the cool thing, well, the thing that's pretty nice about having it's like 500 square feet in the front and about 1,000 square feet in the back is I can mow every day. I'll mow every day when I get home from work, and I can have the front and back mowed in 15 minutes,
That's pretty sweet.
which is nice. So, and then yeah, that last picture that was just last month. There's a little bit of snow left on it, so we're still holding color like that. You can kind of see all the snow in the background, so we're still holding green for
Yeah.
early
And you sent
January, late December,
another
which is
picture
sweet.
here. Like is this in the evening, or are you just showing the snow melting away?
Yep. No, so that was funny. I was actually, I think it was on a live stream. That was when the mail guy drove over the front yard
Oh my God!
when he
I
pulled
see it
into the
now.
driveway.
Oh. Oh. Well, I mean, the driveway is very clear. I don't understand how that happened. Wow. Yeah. Did it run it up pretty badly? I mean, you probably you have to fix it, or is it?
There was a little bit of rut. I went out. It was pretty frozen, luckily.
Okay.
That was right after we had that snowstorm, and it had just started melting. So there's still a bunch of snow on there. So it was pretty frozen still. But I just went out with a tamper and kind of tried to fix it the best I could. But I figured come springtime, I'm going to be double verticutting, punching, and top dressing, and it'll kind of alleviate itself. I'm just hopefully like there was nothing with the irrigation system underneath, which we'll find out
Ah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
later this year.
That's pretty sweet. Nice.
So yeah,
So it looks
that was late August. Yep.
nice. So it looks like some of your neighbors. Not does everybody have lawns, or it looks like some people have like a rock lawn or rock? They just went with like stones instead, or is it that's just the way it is?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of our neighbors, so both people on either side of us have lawns in their front and the back, but
Okay,
most people have the zero scape in the front and then grass in their backyard.
gotcha. And you're not doing that obviously because you mean
No.
can't do that. All right. So next up, we got Cooper. He's back. He says, Happy New Year. Thank you for continuing to get all the lawn care nerds together for some Friday night fun. Thanks again for all your advice, suggestions, and support. Ron, you're very welcome. Thanks for coming to hang out. And then Daniel Lynch, he says, Hey, Ron, can I get a 2,000-pound bag of Essential G with a 20% discount? Unfortunately, not possible, Dan, because like all the Essential G that's left is bagged. Like it's already like the bags, the 100 or so bags that we have left is it. Once that's gone, it's gone. You will be able to get carbonized PNG in a super sack, but it's not going to be discounted. I mean, I guess the if you want, I'm trying to think. Here's the thing: if you want a super sack's worth, which I think is like 50 bags, let's see if we can work something out. I might be able to see about just getting a pallet of them shipped to you. I'll if you are open to it, I'll just email you after the live stream. We can figure something out. Because a super sack is like 50 bags, and there's more than enough to basically create one. It's just we can't ship them all individually. That would be prohibitive. So if I can get like a pallet and get a pallet truck to you, then that would be a way for you to do it and still save some. So yeah, so if you really want some, let me do some digging, and I'll message you after the live stream or email you after the live stream. And we can figure something out because I need to get that moved. I need to get that gone because again, carbonized PNG is going to be the new thing. Actually, you guys want to see it? I think I've got some pictures. I can show you guys the prill. How about that? I think. Oh, where did I do it? I think I can show you guys the prill size. So, granted, I don't have like Essential G to compare it to it, but if you look at his hand and you look at the size of that, it's pretty fine in comparison to Essential G. Essential G is quite a bit bigger than that. So they're screening it a couple of times, and the initial batch they went with they used the same prill size as was in Essential G, but then they said, you know what, as a differentiator, why don't we make it get the prill down to even more because people really like that. And I'm like, yeah, because folks that are real mowing, we need that fine prill. So that's going to be a cool benefit of carbonized PNG that Essential G did not have.
So I will say I do like that, because the only thing I did not like about Essential G is after I would do my application, and
Mm-hmm.
even after a really heavy watering that night, the next day when I would go out to mow, I would still pick up the bigger prills, and they were always in the grass catcher basket, and I would try to pick them out the best I could and toss them back in the yard. So smaller prills, I could be pretty excited about that.
Yeah, so I can actually, I've got a picture here I can actually show you guys. So you can see that. So that way, side by side, you can see the difference if I can get my technology to work. There we go. Let me screenshot this real quick and I'll show you guys the yeah, the difference in pearl size. So that on the left is carbonized PNG, and on the right is going to be Essential G. If I can make this happen. There we go. There's that. And yeah, this is Essential G. So if you look, there's a pretty noticeable difference in size. So again, I know it's in a hand, but if you look at the size of the prill on the right compared to the left, noticeable difference, right? So that's what you're getting with. That's one of the things they wanted to go for, is to get it down to a greens grade, and you can notice a noticeable difference in prill size. So cool. For any of you guys real mowing, or anyone, even if you're not real mowing, it's just going to, you're going to apply it and it will it'll disappear and it will break down faster than Essential G did. So that's a big benefit as well too. Cool stuff. All right. Next up, we got JP in the live stream. He says, Happy New Year. What's going on, JP? Happy New Year to you. Hopefully you're doing well, sir. Then Mr. Tom Hoffenkamp hath entered the live stream. He says, Happy New Year, y'all. We are in 2025. Seems like a milestone, right? Lawns in this group are bound to be memorable. That's the goal. That's the goal. Although 2025 has not started out right. I mean, not to go off on a tangent, but football this year has just not been good. I mean, it's just, I don't understand what is become like a Texas or Ole Miss fan or something for the next few weeks. So yeah, a lot of nasty upset. All right, we got Mars Beads saying Happy New Year, everyone. And then JP says we're expecting ice and snow Saturday and Sunday. Hopefully it stays away. Hopefully that actually doesn't happen. Yep. And then next up is Terrence Stabs. He says Happy New Year and good evening to all. And then next we have Ephraim. He says, Ron, what are the chances that the sedge weeds of my neighbors get into my lawn? Pretty good. You should see the sizes. Hope the wood fence and the care of my lawn should be helpful. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, yeah, as far as like weeds gravitating or migrating from one lawn to another lawn, that is going to be a thing. I don't know, dude. As long as you're keeping it, as long as you're doing a good job, keeping your grass cut, growing a thick stand of turf grass, you really shouldn't have a huge problem. The big issue you run into is when you have a lot of like bare ground. That's when weeds will really take root and run off. So yeah. All right, cool. So Devin, question for you. So this is back on the topic of greens. So weed control on greens. I know like pre-emergent is not something you guys typically will use. I guess as far as managing, say like crab. I mean, it shouldn't actually even get in there. But if say you are dealing with a green where you have some crab grass in it or those types of thing, again, this is more of like a home green type thing. I guess what are the practices you guys would or the techniques you'd recommend for keeping weeds out? And if someone did have weeds in say a bent grass green, like I guess what practices would you recommend to minimize that type of problem?
So I guess just constant mowing would probably be one to help if you're mowing it every day. I'm sure those types of weedy grasses probably would not prefer to be mowed at lower heights of cuts. And then there's not very many herbicides that are labeled to be sprayed on bent grass greens. Certainly not very many that I could think of, especially that would be even labeled for homeowner use.
Right.
So probably you would just be just hand picking it out as you see them.
Yeah. So big thing is that your cultural practices, keeping up with your mowing, keeping it nice and tight, like that in itself is going to be just natural weed control. So yeah,
Yep.
cool. Yeah, man. If you want to take the plunge of getting a green, again, people ask me all the time, is man, why'd you put like a green in the backyard? I'm like, man, look, I like mowing grass. I don't like mowing grass that much. Plus, if you think about it, to do it right, like for example, on your course, you guys likely have like a mower, the mowers that are set up for mowing the greens, and then you have the mowers that are for like the tees and the collars. So it's not like you have a mechanic out there. So I just mow the green. I'm gonna get there and get my gauge out and adjust them. You guys, it's like multiple pieces of equipment depending on what you're cutting, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, each height of cut has its own machine, so nothing gets changed. The only time they would be adjusted would be on the bench height after like a grinding or something, and then it would be set back to whatever the height of cut is that's on the whiteboard in the mechanics bay, and then
That's
we
it.
go back out there and mow. We probably wouldn't have a mechanic if we're like, oh, we mowed this, change the height of cut real quick for us, please.
He's gonna be like, yeah, I'm done. You guys don't respect
Yeah.
me. Yeah. So what it would mean is I would have to have like another mower that is just dedicated just for mowing the green, which is like it's just too much work, man. It'd be cool, but too much work. It's like I have to mow it every day because think about all the drama and hate I would get if I said, oh, I'm gonna put a green in and then I'm not teaming up with it. It's looking like trash. I mean, that's just too much pressure, man. Too much pressure. I tried maintaining the lawn at just under half an inch for a season, and that about killed me. So I can't imagine a green, along with all the other mowing and stuff that I have to do. So probably not going to happen. I mean, like here's a good example. You work on or you manage a course. Why don't you have a green at home or never considered it?
Yeah, I never considered. Well, yeah, like be a lot of work too. Even though I could probably get away with it, but same thing. I got my one mower set up to 3/4 of an inch. Don't want to mess with having
Right.
to adjust height of cuts and make sure everything's cut and tight all the time. I kind of like just getting home, pulling the GM 1000 out, 15 minutes to do everything at 3/4 of an inch, and then
And you're
enjoy a
done.
beer and sit out in the backyard and look at it.
Right. Yeah, you have to run like a fungicide program and do all this other stuff that
Yeah.
that goes into keeping a green, keeping it nice anyway. All right, so we got our first super chat of the evening. This one is from Mr. Archie Amos. Thank you so much, Archie. Really do appreciate it.
Super chat.
I guess just because I didn't see any questions. So if you have a question at some point, we will be sure to take that. And let me get you all set up here. You are now the show sponsor. Really appreciate that. Your name in lights for whatever that means to you. All right, so next up we have Dan Lynch. He says, how short is too short for Celebration Bermuda in Northeast Texas? Okay, here we go. Just hook 'em horns. And you know what, Dan? I am a Texas fan for the next, again, however many weeks. I'm with them. Listen, I'm with them all the way, win or draw. When they lose, then they're dead to me. But the dogs obviously don't. You know what? Not to go on a tangent, but the one thing I will say is that we have a problem with a lot of like Georgia football is that we don't hate losing enough. Like the Falcons blew arguably one of the biggest leads in Super Bowl history, and then you watch them the way they played yesterday. It was not good. Like this didn't Notre Dame just they wanted it more. You could just tell. But yeah, Texas fan all the way until they lose. But well, hopefully they can get it done. So the question that you had is how short is too short for Celebration Bermuda in Northeast Texas? So here's the thing: you can maintain Celebration a half an inch, maybe a little bit shorter than that, Dan. The issue you're going to run into is mowing frequency. So if you start out the season at say half an inch in April, even May, not going to be a huge deal. Once you get into the hotter times of the year, Bermuda loves heat and loves sunlight, loves heat. And it's really going to light off and begin growing a lot faster. Like I'll tell you, when I was running my lawn at the bench height was 0.45 inches. Like there was a period where I had to mow the lawn practically every day. Like every 36 hours or so, the lawn needed to be cut. So I could do one mow cut in the morning, and then get to the evening of the following day. But pretty much you had to mow it every day to keep it looking good. So can you maintain it at half an inch or even shorter than that? Sure. But it's a lot more work. I don't particularly think it's worth it. And something else you're going to run into is the color is not going to be quite as good. The shorter you keep it, it's not going to stripe as well. The shorter you keep it, the chances of you having disease problems are going to be higher. Like it's just the more you are cutting the grass, the more you're injuring it regularly. Like everything has to be on point. Like the mowers, you got to keep the mower sharp. Like you got to make sure it's always adjusted. There's a lot that goes into it. So I mean, kind of like you get on the lines of like maintaining it, how you maintain a green. Would you say, Devin? I mean, it's just the lower you go, it's just more work, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's a pretty safe thing to say. Pretty accurate.
Yeah. So it looks. I would say this, Dan. Try it. Try it for the months of like April and May, and then get it out of your system, and you'll be able to say and do the thing. Get like a golf ball and roll it on the grass, and it'll roll out just like a golf course fairway. It'll be really cool to look at. But then that's about where the novelty of it, in my opinion, ends. Like it's just a lot of work for not a ton of upside in my opinion. But that's just me. Let's see. Chris Allen is up next. This is a good one here. He says, "Happy 2025. I aerated and reseeded cold weather Kentucky bluegrass in early November, but some didn't take in my front yard due to neighborhood crabgrass. What's the best strategy to get full growth and fill in the dead spots?" I give it this one, Devin. That's all you.
Interesting. I'd be curious to know like where you are in the U.S. Just kind of what your temperatures and everything are. I guess if this is kind of like where I live, we don't really have much crabgrass, luckily though. I would probably wait till springtime, remove as much crabgrass as you can, and then just do some hand seeding, aerate in those areas that are thin, get your seed down, and then put some type of compost or sand compost mix, sand to get on top of that seed for seed to soil contact, and then just keep it wet and try to get those areas to fill in. And then hopefully it's kind of like not in shady spots. Hopefully those areas get enough sun that you could get some good germination.
Yeah. So because your lawn, was your lawn sodded, or do you establish yours from seed? I'm trying to think.
Mine was sodded, and then I've introduced a Kentucky bluegrass blend into it this past year. I did a spring overseed, and then I did a fall overseed, and then I'll do that one more time this spring.
So it's a good question. So overseeding, like cool season lawns, is just a common thing where you'll find that people will overseed in the spring, overseed in the fall. In your opinion, like once you get the lawn thickened up the way you want, is it still something that someone needs to do every year, or is it like what would someone look at and to say, okay, this spring or this fall, I need to overseed my cool season lawn?
No, yeah, it's definitely not something you would need to do every year. Like what I do is probably overkill for what most people need to do or would want to do. It's more like if it's thinning out, or if you have older varieties and you want to introduce some newer varieties, or you live in a neighborhood where the trees have grown up and now your yard gets more shade and you want to put a variety in that's more shade tolerant. Some stuff like that.
Nice, cool. Yeah. So in general, you can, if you don't need it, don't do it. All right. Next up, we got Crystal Madigal. She says, "Hello, Turf Talk crew. What's going on, Crystal?" And then True Gator fan says, "Happy Friday, Ron. Just found out there's a Site One location in Memphis now, so I'm super geeked for spring." Nice, nice. You're gonna be in there, you're touching and funneling all the cool lawn care products. I get it. Nice, I get it. Then Ephraim, I don't think that's for me. Chaz Bishop says, "Good evening, sir. What's going on, Chaz?" And then another question, this one about the advantages of verticutting Kentucky bluegrass. So Lance F is in the live stream. He says, "Good evening, guys. What is the advantage of verticutting a Kentucky bluegrass lawn, and how often should you do it? Turf is maintained at 3/4 of an inch. Thanks."
Nice. So same scenario that I have with my yard. So 3/4 of an inch. I verticut mine, and that's with like the actual blades, not like with the spring rakes, or what do call that, for like dethatching or
like turf rake?
Yeah, turf raking. So I'll do the verticutting 2 directions, spring and fall, with my aeration, and then midsummer I'll do the turf raking 2 directions just to kind of clean up the grain. And I like to time that like kind of late June for all the seed head that has popped and it's kind of just hanging out in the canopy, and I can't get it up with just mowing. So I'll do a turf raking with that to pull that up, because I hate in the summertime when you have that seed head look, especially when they've gone golden and they're done growing and you just can't get them removed. And then I'll do another 2 direction verticutting with my fall aeration.
Okay. So at least twice in the season, at least twice, like spring and fall. Cool. And double passes. Yeah. And yeah. So sorry, as far as what he's talking about, as far as verticutter, I can show you guys a picture. I mean, this is one cartridge. There's different setups, but Like this is like the verticutting cartridge that's on my C27. So something along this line is what you could do for that work. So yeah, it's a cool setup. Cool setup. All right, let's go back to getting it back in. All right. Next up is Efrain Eriga. Before we do that though, with Bermuda grass, when it comes to verticutting, to kind of before we walk away from this, like if I don't do something in like mid-season, so it's like our season starts, the grass really starts going in say April timeframe. You start real mowing it, and by the time you get into like late May, early June, if you don't do something to thin it out, either verticutting it or like a mid-season scalp, like you start having cutting problems, like you start getting scalping in areas that you didn't get and whatnot. Is that as big of an issue on cool season grass, or do you guys, is verticutting mainly just part of your, again, your seeding practice for spring and fall? I guess, do you guys run into scalping problems as you get into mid-season?
I wouldn't say as much as like scalping problems. It's more like when you're mowing and your cut quality's not as good, and you can almost kind of feel like the mower kind of want to go back and forth
Floating.
on the grain, and you can feel it kind of floating on the surface, and you can kind of just tell that your quality cut's not as good. So then
Mm-hmm.
that kind of cues me that it's like, all right, I need to do some kind of agronomic thing here to kind of thin this out and let it breathe a little bit.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. So similar to what we would do with our warm season grasses. Okay. Next up, we got Ephraim. He says, I was doing the last mowing of the year and got my attention to see through the fence how tall his yard is. So I climbed a chair so you're looking over the fence in your neighbor's yard. Okay. And the sedge is big besides all other kinds of weeds. I mean, so I'd say this pre-emergent is your friend. So get your pre-emergent down. And then if you're mowing regularly, you really shouldn't have a ton of issues with his weeds migrating into your lawn. I mean, like I talk about pre-emergent a lot, but really, if you are someone that stays on top of your lawn, you're mowing regularly, you're growing a healthy stand of turf grass, like that's really good prevention for having mass outbreak of weeds. So I won't worry about too much. Probably okay. So with your neighbors, is there anyone else in your neighborhood that is like real mowing or doing taking their lawn to the same standard? I mean, I know it's not the same standard, but that is serious about their lawn as well, or um,
Well, it's kind of funny. The one neighbors who live next door to us, I've helped them out with a lot. This is like the first yard they've ever had, so
mm,
I've been helping them out through their whole year, which is kind of fun because then I sit outside and I kind of look over and I'm like, oh yeah, it's looking pretty good. But then the neighbor on my other side, he actually for Miracle Grow, he runs one of like the main plants that sees a pretty large territory of the U.S. and he was joking. He's always like, "Oh, every neighborhood I've lived in, I've always had the best yard." And then you had to move in next door, so him and I kind of go back and forth at it. But he or not verticut, rotary mows
oh,
his lawn, so he keeps it about like maybe 3-4 inches.
okay,
Bluegrass. He got the same sod that I have on mine. So besides the seed that I've introduced, he's got some of the same stuff that I
nice.
have. But it's pretty fun, yeah. And we go back and forth. He always jokes that he's got the rough cut, and I've got the fairway cut,
You
and
got the
he's
fairway
gonna
cut. There you go.
hit balls over the fence. So it's kind of funny.
Nice, nice. Okay, next we got Trevor Schultz Golf. He says, going to do a thick top dress this spring to level out old gopher tunnels. Other than a dethatch and aerify, do you have any recommendations? Okay, so personally, I am not. When you say thick top dress, I'm thinking you're talking about 2 inches of material, like that's a lot of material. If that's what you're referring to, I'm not a huge fan of doing that. I prefer to go like do more frequent top dressings and just go thinner. Like, I like a quarter of an inch to half an inch because the lawn is just going to recover a lot faster. You're not going to have it's less stress. So depending on how bad the tunnels are, you may just do multiple, is what I would say. And then as far as process, I like to aerate, and then any products you want to put down, whether it be like a fertilizer, granular biostimulant, great time to do it, and then top dress, and then just wait. So, yeah, the only thing that I would say, your process sounds pretty good, Trevor. The only thing I might just not do is, I mean, you say thick. When someone says a thick top dress, I'm thinking you're gonna like, put down again an inch and a half of like a bunch of material. So yeah, I personally wouldn't do that. On that point, Devin, whenever you guys are doing a top dress on the greens, I guess I kind of answered this already, but how heavy do you guys go? I guess when you're done and you're done dragging it in, like I guess how much material are we talking about that you guys put down?
So in the spring and fall aerations, they're usually pretty heavy because the holes are usually about 3/4 inch diameter, so they're pretty big
Okay.
holes and probably about 4 inches deep. So they'll be pretty heavy. And sometimes we'll do not all at once. We'll do one layer, drag it in, and then do another layer, drag it in, and get it as close as we can. Um, but then in like if we do any top dressing in the summertime, it's very light. I mean, you go over it with a cocoa mat, and
It's
that
gone.
sand just disappears into the canopy. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Cool. Very cool. So hopefully that helps, Trevor. Next up, we got JG. JG, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? She says, sorry, at LG's in here. I haven't seen him much since he left to walk into traffic after last weekend. Listen, here's the thing. JG, I think LG has won multiple times. I know, I think in the first year, the first giveaway I ever did, I want to say LG won. And he's won at least one other time after that. So it's just, you got to spread it around. You got to spread the love around. He'll be back. He'll be back. He can't go anywhere. Tell him don't play in traffic. He might damage a car. I mean, then what? You don't want to do that. All right, next up is Nino Yokohana. He says, hello, Ron Henry and everyone. Happy New Year. And yeah, Dan, I'll reach out to you. He says, okay, next up is Blessed Charismatic Classic Man. It says, thoughts on these new Turf Fireball and Hat Trick Perennial Rise. Anything you've ever heard of, Devin?
I've heard of them. I don't have any experience with them, but I know that like in their NTEP trials that they're supposed to be like really, really, really dark green and have like really good color to them. But besides that, I don't know much more about them. But they're probably really good.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, cool. There you go. So I don't know how well it would blend in with your existing lawn if you're talking about maybe a renovation, bless charisma. But yeah, I mean, like anything else, like I'd look at the reviews, see what other people are saying about it, and just kind of go from there. All right. Next up is True Gator Fan. He says, Ron, what are the differences between Carbon Pro G, Essential G, and the product replacing Essential G? So that one has Carbon Pro G at $30 a bag, and I'm thinking about trying it this season. Great question. So all three products are made by Miramichi Green. Carbon Pro G is the OG, the original Prill product that Miramichi Green did for Lesco/Site One. So if you think carbonized PN, which is pretty much half biochar and half compost, take that, put it in Prill form, and that is what you have with Carbon Pro G. Essential G is like they pretty much said, how can we take Carbon Pro G and make it like if we could make our pie in the sky granular biostimulant, what would we put into it? And that's what Essential G is, where it's got the compost, the biochar, humate, silica. It's got a bit of everything. So as far as like the ultimate vitamin pack for your soil, like it's really tough to beat Essential G. Prill size between Essential G and Carbon Pro G, they're fairly similar. So whatever spreader setting you use for Carbon Pro G, it'd be very similar to Essential G. And then the new product, which is Carbonized PNG, it's closer to Carbon Pro G than it is to Essential G. So it is biochar, compost. They have 10% of other sauce magic that they put in there, and then also the microbial package that's in it is closer to what is in BioSpectrum than what was in Carbon Pro G. So they are all different. Carbon Pro G and Carbonized PNG are closer than Essential G. Essential G is its own thing. Again, Essential G, you can almost think of it as like Carbon Pro G or Carbon Pro G 2.0. And then the positives was everything that it did and that it came with that was in it. The negatives was that is just is a difficult product to consistently make because of everything that went into it. So just getting the amount they needed consistently became a challenge. So they simplified it. Carbonized PNG is, you could think of it as like if you could take Carbon Pro G and make it and improve it, where you put a better microbial package in it and you make the Prill size smaller, that is what you're getting with Carbonized PNG. So those two products are very similar. With the Carbonized PNG, the new one that's going to be released here soon, that's going to have a finer Prill and an updated bacteria package that's in it. So probably the best way I can explain them all to you. We still have some Essential G if you want. Like I've still got probably 10, 15 bags of Essential G in my garage. So again, it's not like the new product is that much superior or Essential G is that much worse or whatever. It's really you're gonna get a good result with any of them. If you've got a Site One nearby you and you can get Carbon Pro G at $33 a bag, then you're not paying shipping, because a lot of what you're paying for whenever you get carbonized PNG or Essential G is just the cost of shipping it to you. So if you can get that, you can get it locally, you get Carbon Pro G locally, it's going to be a good product. You're going to get good results with it. For a number of years, I used Carbon Pro G before I moved to Essential G. So if you got one nearby, if you can get some locally, you're going to get a good result with it, because again, I've been to the factory and they're all made in the they're made in the same place. So hopefully that helps, True Gator fan. All right, next up we have Harper's Knitter. What's going on? It's been a while. I've not seen you. Not seen you for a hot minute. You've been gone. Glad to see that you're okay. It says, okay, due to being assaulted, I missed out most of the season. That's not good. I hope hopefully you're okay. I'm sorry to hear that. I have a patch of fungus right out front. I can see it through the dormant lawn. Nothing is getting rid of it. Propiconazole, Heritage G, others. Okay, so you have a dormant lawn, but you're still seeing disease on it. It'd be helpful if you could send me a picture of it so I can see what you're dealing with. So yeah, without a picture, it's tough to see exactly what is what's going on. Harper's Knitter. So yeah, I'm not sure what to say, but it's good. Glad to see you. Glad to see that you're back. It's been, again, to your point, it's been a while, probably summer since I last saw you on live stream. So glad to see that you're doing okay, other than the disease problem in your lawn. And if you need to email it to me, my email is ron@golfcourselawn.com. So you can send it there, and I will do my best to get you all squared away. Send me a picture of it, and we'll get you sorted. All right, next up is Squid Vicious. He says, thinking about tackling a 40-foot somewhat shady spot in my hybrid Bermuda by laying some Tahoma 31 sod. Will the two species be able to coexist, or will one take over the other? Thank you. No. And I'll tell you this, Squid. Even though Tahoma 31 is, air quotes, I'm gonna do my thing, is air quotes more shade tolerant than, say, like Tifway or, a lot of the Tif Green, a lot of the common cultivars, it's still Bermuda. So if your existing grass is not growing well there to where it's really thin, almost getting to the point where it's bare, I don't know that Tahoma 31 is really going to be the solution. So that's thing one. And thing two is, will one take over the other? Unlikely. What you're going to end up with is like a mutt of a lawn. You're going to end up with like some of whatever you currently have, which you didn't say, and Tahoma 31. And they are unlikely to match. So that's just something else to consider if you decide to go and introduce Tahoma 31 sod. Because depending on how much shade you have, I don't know if it's necessarily going to solve the problem. And last point is that Bermuda is incredibly hard to get rid of once it's in. So, I'd really think twice before doing that. Ultimately your call. But it's, it's even if it grows in, it is unlikely to match your existing lawn, which is probably like a Tifway 419 or some other sod that builders install. So there you go. So hopefully that helps. Sorry, it's not the answer you're probably looking for, but it's better than dealing with different types of grass that don't look the same, because some people don't care about that, but it would absolutely drive me crazy. So, that's one of the concerns I have why I'm planning to do the Zoysia renovation the way I am, because that's like a section of the lawn that's kind of off by itself. It doesn't really touch anything else. So as far as spreading into the rest of the lawn, not really, I want to say not really possible, but not highly, highly unlikely for that to happen. So we'll see. All right. Next up is Justin Ennis. He says, if you overseeded Tifway 419 with perennial ryegrass, what would be your plan of attack for transitioning back come spring? Are you a fan of spraying it out or letting nature take its course? Arizona, you want to spray it out. If you let nature take its course, I forget exactly what it is that ryegrass releases, but it's almost like a toxin for Bermuda grass. Like Bermuda just doesn't. If you let them sit, here's what's going to happen, because there's a person in our neighborhood that does the same thing, and every year their grass looks like absolute Hades until like June. So when it comes to around April-ish timeframe, Justin, I'm not sure where in the country you are, but say you're my neighbor in Georgia. When you get to around April-ish timeframe, when ryegrass is looking its absolute best, is when you're going to want to get rid of it, because that's when Bermuda is going to start to grow in, and you want it out before then. So yeah, so I'm not sure, Devin, do you know exactly what it is with ryegrass? Because someone explained it to me one time, but there's something that it releases that's almost like a defense mechanism that is really bad
Yeah.
for Bermuda grass.
Yep. I don't know the exact terminology for it, but I have heard that myself. I've read like research studies too. It's like rare instances where like it's done that to like bluegrass, and then actually like will kill off bluegrass and like test plots. Um, but yeah, I guess I never considered that for happening in like warm season too, which could be a pretty big problem.
Yeah, it's like literally you will look at Bermuda grass and it looks almost like you sprayed Bermuda with like a herbicide or something. It looks bad because in like May, June timeframe, the ryegrass isn't looking great because it's too hot, and the Bermuda grass is like it's just holding on for dear life. It just does not look good. So if you're gonna do it, Justin, you can, but absolutely get rid of it. Come again, I would say April timeframe. You know what? Whenever the Masters is about to start, that's when you're going to want to get rid of your ryegrass overseed, because it's typically in April. And as far as what I would recommend to do it, use Celsius and some surfactant. Even if your Bermuda's coming out of dormancy, Celsius is a relatively gentle herbicide, so I would go with this, a little bit of surfactant, and that'll make fairly quick work of the ryegrass and allow the Bermuda to transition nicely out of dormancy, and you'll be good for the summer. So I really wouldn't wait. I'm not sure if Robert Rainey's in here, but he's an Academy member, and he got 1 more weekitis where it was looking so good, because this thing, man, ryegrass in April is a beautiful thing. And he said, just 1 more week, we'll see, I'll let it go a little bit longer. And he waited probably a little longer than he should have, and it took longer for the Bermuda to really to wake up and start looking good because of that. So April is when you're going to want to really look to get rid of it. So good question, sir. Hopefully that helps. All right, we got a couple of super chats. Let me go down here and grab them really quick. Mr. LG hath entered the live stream. He stopped playing in the street. We like that. He says, ever wonder what it's like to lose a giveaway and spend the next weekend locked up in a padded room with full-time supervision? Wish I didn't know either. So thanks, and I hope you enjoy your lemonade. Look, man, you've won a bunch of times. If you won every time, then people would say, then it's like rigged or nepotism or something. It's not. You won plenty of times. Here's the thing. I won last week and I couldn't even win. So look at that. I should feel really bad. And then we got Lance F. He says, I sent you an email of photos of my lawn. It's all Kentucky bluegrass. What caused this problem? How can I fix this overseed? Thanks. You sent pictures, Lance? Let me see if I can get these up here. Do I have anything? So lawn issue for Devin. He says, oh, yeah, so you sent me some picture. Oh, man. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Tom. Like the one picture looks incredible, and then the other picture looks less incredible. But I'm not sure exactly what the problem is. Okay, so I'm looking for your pictures, Lance, and I don't see them unless Lance and Tom Hoffenkamp are the same person. I don't have anything from you as yet. So if you emailed me, maybe make them smaller. I don't have any emails from you as yet. Tom did send 2 pictures though. So this is his ryegrass overseed. Now don't look at this and be like, oh, I got to have that, because remember, you got to get rid of it in the springtime. But this is Bermuda grass that has been overseeded, which looks pretty insane. I don't care who you are. That looks really good. But then he said, so it looks good like as it is, but then he says when you get close up, there's some kind of a disease problem he's dealing with. So this is picture 2. He's showing him the grass blades. Your mower looks like
I wonder if that's I don't want to say melting out.
Yeah, he says the whole lawn. He says there's a section of it seems to be affected.
Let me Google that really quick.
Yeah. So yeah, he's gonna look really quick. Tom, one thing I'll tell you here, looking at the pictures, if you look at the edges of the grass, I'm not sure if you've been mowing. I know you've been mowing it, obviously, but check your mower. Check your make sure it's cutting paper, because it looks like if you look at the tips, there's a bit of tearing, and like there's also like if you look at some of the grass that's look at your name, like Lance F. It's on the live stream right now. The grass blade that's right above it, you see how it's kind of pinched, and then the edges kind of is frayed. That almost looks like to me that you're not cutting cleanly, and it's kind of pinching and tearing in the grass. So check your reel to bed knife clearance. Make sure it's cutting paper all the way across, because that is, when I saw it, that's one thing that stuck out to me just looking at the picture. It looks like your mower either needs to be sharpened or it needs to be adjusted, because the grass is being cut nicely. You got some tearing, some pinching and tearing going on there. So yeah, so we'll do some digging and see what we can come back with. Sorry you're dealing with that, man. Because I mean, I'll tell you this. Here's the good news: is that at this vantage point, it looks incredible. Like I didn't see anything wrong with it really, standing from the street or from the sidewalk where we took the picture. But yeah, if you get up close, there's definitely some challenges there.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I wonder on some of those spots if you get like any like lesions on like the leaf blade further down where it's kind of looks like the tip is burnt,
Uh
because
huh.
usually that's pretty tailed with like melting out, where you that very tip of it will like shrivel up and melts away is kind of what it's called, and it
Okay.
just looks burnt. But usually you'll get more like kind of these like little blackish looking lesions underneath those burnt areas or burnt tips on the leaf blades themselves.
Yeah, he said he's been rotating fungicides, Pillar SC and TM 4.5 on the 1st and the 15th. He says perhaps from hunger. He says he's feeding it, he's fertilizing it. Yeah, man, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that. So you're thinking the discoloration and the way the tips look, that's more from the disease, and instead of like mower setup.
Yeah, but I don't. Well, there's like kind of one in the middle where you can kind of see. There's like a leaf blade that kind of looks like a little fork, and if you go straight down, just right in the middle,
Okay,
there's one that's pretty torched, and it kind of looks like there's some grayish lesions, like kind of making their way down.
I see it. I see what you're
It's
talking
just
about. Yeah.
it's just kind of tough to tell without actually like looking at the turf in person.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, so sorry, Tom. I mean, you're doing the right things. You are using a fungicide. I guess I'd say let's let the your last app run its course and see how the lawn recovers from it, because yeah, it looks like you're doing a lot of the right things from what I'm seeing there. Sorry you're dealing with that. All right. So we got a couple of pictures. So Justin Ennis that was just asking about spraying out his ryegrass lawn sent some pictures of his overseas. So you guys can take a can see what he's working with. Let's see what we got here. Oh man, goodness gracious. Okay. All right. So picture one is this guy. Overall, quite nice. Quite nice if I do say so myself. And it looks like he cut a green into it. So let me get that picture up here. Next, so that's another one, and then finally, the picture with a green that he mowed into the lawn. Overall, really nice, man. Looks good. It looks good. Looks like, yeah, you may have like a little bit of scalping there at like 2 o'clock ish, but overall looks good, man. Color looks great. Compared to your neighbor's lawn, looks awesome. Thanks for sending those pictures. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on, we have. Let's see here. Dan says I was referring to dormant Bermuda. Okay, yeah. So as far as the height of cut, Dan, I am not. So I've kept Bermuda as low as half an inch in this time of year. Typically, I leave it at 3/4 of an inch. That's where my lawn is now, and that's where it's going to be until springtime. So, given that you're in North Texas, if you're going to keep it between 3/4 of an inch to an inch, that should be just fine. I wouldn't make any major height of cut changes this time of year if that's what you're asking. But if you're at 3/4 of an inch to an inch, should be okay. All right, next up is Med Only says, "Hi, I'm a big fan of your work. My question is, can I kill Bermuda in dormancy, or do I wait until spring and summer? I want to resod my lawn." You're going to have better success controlling it or getting rid of it when it's actively growing. I mean, you could. I'm trying to think if you were going to do it now. Well, how would you go about it? I mean, you could get like a sod cutter and cut it out, but you're still going to have some roots left back, and when it gets to be hot, you're going to have some breakthrough. So if you want to get the best you would have the best chance of minimizing that. You're going to be treating Bermuda like you would treat any other weed, and the way the time to control is when it's actively growing. So right now would not be a great time to do that. So I personally wouldn't. Personally would not. Let's see here. Next up is Sean Murphy. Okay, it's a question for Devin. He says, "Happy Friday, gentlemen. Devin, do you full throttle your greensmaster on your turf? Just curious. I have a yard on the smaller side with the same mower."
No, so that's actually one of the things that I love about the GM1000. Unlike a lot of the newer mowers, the reel speed isn't dependent on the throttle speed. So I'll maybe just notch it up just a little bit, but yeah, I'd never run it full speed when I'm mowing, or I would get from one end to the other in about a split second.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. It's not like, how do you think, like a true cut, where the reel speed and the propulsion system, they're not linked with, like, my greensmaster, whether I am like creeping along at, I don't know, whatever, a mile an hour, or have it like a full throttle, it still cuts well, because then the two of them are like, they're hard linked. You can't run the reel without the mower moving forward.
Yep.
So it doesn't really make that much of a difference, Sean. Whatever walking speed is comfortable for you is what you can go with. On my case, on my lawn, I run mine flat open. I just leave, because I got a lot of long passes to make, and I just whip turn and keep going. So in my case, I run it as fast as it can go, which is really not that fast. I think they're geared such that you can't, like some of my mowers, like the True Cut, or like the Revolution, you can, well, mine not so much, but the original version of it, you could, if you went full throttle, the mower would move pretty quickly. But with the Greensmaster, even at wide open, it's still comfortable for me to walk behind it. So there's that. All right. Next up, so we got LG is saying, I'm looking here in the chat, the sidebar, he's saying endophytes is what he's saying might be causing the problem. I'm not sure about the LG. I'll have to look into it. All right, next up is Gary Keller Jr. He says, "Happy Friday, Ron. I've just been watching and nothing happening in my cool season grass. I've been starting to prep, and I have a question about when to put down a fungicide this spring outside of Chicago." Great question, Gary. So being in Chicago, you're going to be a few weeks behind us. I still like to do my preventative fungicide in May, and then the second one in June. So in your case, you might be mid-May and then maybe mid-June as far as your preventatives. But yeah, you're going to be a couple weeks behind us, depending on weather. The only way you might change that is if you've had an issue or had a history of disease in your lawn earlier in the season. Then is when I would adjust that and move your application back. But outside of that May-June timeframe works pretty well. Like, I mean, we use it on our warm season grass down here in the Southeast, and then there's folks all over the country that go with that time frame, give or take a week or two, and they get really good results as far as preventing disease. So hope that helps, Gary. Great question. And it's a good thing, man. I gotta tell you, like, fungicide, a lot of people will say, well, why put it down? Why don't you wait till the problem's there? And I'm like, man, you don't want
to.
You don't want that. Like, you don't want fungicide is one of those things that you don't want to have disease in your lawn and have to correct it after the fact. Like, given the choice, I'm trying to think, would I rather have disease problem or like an insect damage problem? Really neither. I don't know. Well, if you'd have one or the other, which would you go with, Devin? You had to choose between disease or grubs, and they're both bad.
Yeah, I guess maybe disease. Maybe you'll get lucky with one, and it's kind of only like a foliar disease, and doesn't affect the roots as much.
Yeah, that's true. Because grubs, you could be looking at month, more longer, depending on how bad the damage is. So yeah, it says, and what's the best product to kill Bermuda? Yeah, so if you're looking for a non-selective way of getting Bermuda grass, the combination that I find works really well, med only, is glyphosate and Fusilade 2. You can do glyphosate by itself, but you tend to have to do a couple rounds of it. So you'll do an application, and then 3 weeks later, you have to go back again. The closest that I've ever come across to one and done when it comes to Bermuda grass, which I know it's kind of hard to say that, but it works really well, is to take Fusilade 2, which I'll show you really quickly. If you go to Golf Course Launcher, go to Shop, and then go to Weed Killer, this herbicide. This stuff mixed with glyphosate of your choice. Like you want a higher concentration glyphosate. I think there's like a product called Eraser that's like 40 in the 40s percentage. And then also we carry a glyphosate product as well, like a Roundup pack that I think this is higher. It's even higher than that as far as the amount of active. Yeah, 73% glyphosate. So you want like a higher percentage glyphosate product that you're going to mix along with the Fusilade, and then one app really should do a good job on knocking it out. Otherwise, you're gonna be chasing it. So another thing to keep in mind too, it also depends on what your plan is, right? So if you are going to let's say you're going to replace your Bermuda saw with, say, something like Zoysia. In that case, yes, you want to get rid of the Bermuda. You want to kill as much of it as you can. But now, thankfully, we have a way to selectively remove Bermuda out of the Zoysia. So if you have a little bit of breakthrough here and there, not that big a deal. When you really want it gone as much as you can is if you're trying to go from one type of Bermuda to another type. So say you're going to go from Tipway 419 to Homa 31 or some other cultivar that looks quite a bit different than what you currently have, you really want to do as good a job as you can getting rid of the existing Bermuda. So it really depends as far as what you're going to be replacing it with, which process it makes the most sense for you. But yeah, glyphosate and Fusilade 2, that combination is money for getting rid of Bermuda grass. So if you're looking for it, again, we got it on the Golf Course Lawn Store and should get you all squared away. Sounds like a fun project. Take pictures. That's one thing I'll tell you. I always take pictures. That's one thing I didn't do enough of my lawn. So I always tell everybody and their grandma, whenever you're doing work on your lawn, take pictures of it because you'll never know. You'll get to appreciate how far it's come. Okay,
And
next up.
I was just going to say,
Go ahead.
just another thing to add on to that. It might sound crazy. Do your first spray for your kill off.
Mhm.
Give it a couple days, water, give it a good heavy watering, see what else comes back up and starts growing, and then do another application. Because it sounds crazy to water stuff you're trying to kill, but it'll encourage anything that
To grow.
didn't get hit in that first spray to grow, and then you can reapply again and get a better kill.
I got you. That makes sense. Yeah. So you heard it, and then you say, "Hey, we're gonna try and help you out, buddy. Here's some water," and then it's like, "Ha, got you." Right. So I got it. I got you. So okay. Next we got Lance F. Okay. So he had the disease problem. I think it is Kentucky bluegrass lawn. Is that what this is, Lance? So I'll show you the pictures of what he's dealing with here, Devin. You can weigh in. So the good news is from the street, it looks pretty good to me. But then when you get closer, not so much. So that is what he's working with. But then if you you look up close, his problem is this. So he's got that.
Looks like dollar spot would be my guess.
And then if we get closer, that. Yeah. It's hard to say without scale, but yeah, dollar spot would be that'd be a good guess. That'd be a good guess. How big are the spots, Lance? Because there's not like anything laying next to it. They could be the size of like a $50, or they could be, the size of a dinner plate. But yeah, at any rate, yeah, dollar spot's not a bad bad diagnosis. As far as what you can use, if that's the case, propiconazole will work, and then or like Pillar SC, like the tritaconazole that's in Pillar SC will also work for dollar spot. So if you've got
And if
either
it's
one of those, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if it's a little spot, like if you only have a couple little things like that, a quick like hit of with like a foliar nitrogen will also help grow it out of that. Since it's just a foliar disease, it just encourages new growth, and then it'll grow out of that. Because we get a couple spots like that on the golf course, and instead of spraying a fungicide, we'll just do a quick little hit of nitrogen on it, and
And it
then
goes
the
right
turf will
through it.
just recover and just grows right through it. Yep. Dollar spot's one of the only diseases where more nitrogen doesn't make it worse.
Right. Nice. Yeah, and Lance, it's funny you say that because with Bermuda, it's not really a problem on Bermuda lawns that are being fed properly. If you have a lawn that is nutrient deficient, primarily nitrogen, that's when you'll start having issues with dollar spot. But on Bermuda lawns, if you're feeding it even anywhere near where you're supposed to, anywhere near like close to a pound per per thousand per month or so. I mean, you're never really going to see an issue. You may see in the morning like the cobwebs, but as far as it materializing or turning into anything, it never does. So
That
Atlans F.
that's what I
If
was
so,
just going to say too. Go out early in the morning and see if you see any mycelium kind of growing around in those areas while there's any dew on the grass, because that's when you'll see that, and that's a pretty telltale sign too.
mm-hmm. Yeah, but to his point, try just hitting a little, a little spray of N first. I mean, that's less expensive, and you're not putting out a fungicide unless you absolutely have to, right? So, all right, Two Trilla is up next from Manila. He says, "Happy 2025, everyone. With the colder than expected weather coming to Georgia, is there anything I need to do to protect the Bermuda?" Nope, it'll be just fine. Nothing special. I mean, if I'm trying to think, you're not that far from me, I don't believe, Two Trilla, and we've had rain recently, so no. I mean, if we'd had like say weeks and weeks and weeks of no water, then I might say run an irrigation cycle. But we've had rain, so there's nothing for you to do. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be a problem. And then Trevor Schultz Golf says, "That's what I was planning, a couple of inches. Thanks for that." So he's planning on doing a couple of inches of top dressing material at once. I personally would not do that, but you're ultimately your call. I mean, if you're saying you're going to put it down and then drag it in to where it's the grass is exposed, then that's okay. But if you're telling me that when you're done, all you're going to see is just basically a sand lot, I don't know if that's a great plan. For at least for recovery, it's going to take a lot longer for it to come back. Okay, next up is Gary Kellett Jr. He says, "Another question. I have an area next to a tree that is a pain to grow or fill in. Typically a thing when grass is growing next to trees. Should I throw down some ryegrass in that area, or is there another grass type to throw down in that area? What say you? You have an area near trees and you want to still get grass to grow. What would you go with, Devin?"
I guess it's kind of tricky, double-edged sword there. You'd have to kind of do some research, pick out the species that would be the best shade tolerant. But chances are, you could get it to fill in and it'll look good, but after time, it'll probably decline
Mm-hmm.
regardless. So it's kind of one of those never-ending battles. Do what you can do to make it look good, but eventually, Mother Nature is gonna win. Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword. There's things you can do, but it's one of those things where it might be best just to cut that out and put a tree ring in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, Gary. I mean, I've seen people where they've tried this for Bermuda, and they'll go out and look at some brand new Bermuda sod, and they'll put it down right underneath the tree, and then for a few weeks, maybe a month, it's nice and green, looks good because it's brand new sod that just went in, and then slowly it starts to look exactly like the previous grass did. So if you make it, maybe just make a big mulch bed or something, or put some kind of other ornamental like plant around it to make it look nice. But grass, I've heard fescue, like fine fescues,
Yeah.
are more shade tolerant, but I don't know how well that's going to blend or look with your existing lawns. There's also that consideration as well, right? So, all right. Next up is Chris Allen. He says, "Thanks at Ron Henry and Devin. I'm in Chicago area and battle with crabgrass with tenacity and surfactant. I'm pretty sure I overdid it, as the blank spots now are where I sprayed the most. Will fix." Okay. At least you know the problem, so you overdid it. It happens. All right. Next up, we have John Smith. He says, "Hello, Ron. It's been a while. How do I get rid of black mold and green algae along the shaded areas of my fence? Is 1 teaspoon of baking soda mixed with per 1 gallon of water to spray a good choice?" Um, yeah. So here, I'll tell you this much. What I would recommend, as far as the baking soda being a solution, I've not heard that it might be, but the thing that's going to be the real fix is to fix the conditions that are causing the problem, right? So if that area doesn't get a lot of sunlight, that can be a tough thing to fix if it's like a privacy fence. But if it doesn't drain properly, that is something you normally can work on. So I would like, improve the drainage to where water doesn't settle there. If you can get more light in that area, also a good thing. And then when you go out and use some kind of a curative product or solution, then it's really going to fix it. But I don't know, Devin, have you ever heard of that one? Baking soda with a gallon of water for algae?
I haven't heard of baking soda. I've used Dawn dish soap before though to kill algae,
Okay.
and that works really good.
Okay. So yeah, maybe try that, John. Dawn and water and see. But again, it's just going to keep coming back unless you fix the conditions. It's like whenever people email me and they say, "Hey, I got moss like growing in an area of my lawn, and I want to get rid of it. And I'm like, okay, so which is it? Is it heavily shaded, bad drainage, really acidic soil, or all of the above? And normally it's the drainage and just a lot of shade. So I'm like, you got to fix that, or it's gonna continue to be a thing. So. All right. Next up is John Smith. He says, I already reduced my watering, but it may not help for the others within the zone area. Okay. So whenever you're running your irrigation, yeah. So John, I'm not sure where you are in the country, but you really shouldn't have to be watering too much this time of year. I had a viewer that reached out to me that was dealing with an algae problem, and I said, well, what has this always been a thing? Like during the summer, do you have the problem? They're like, no, not really. It's really more of a fall, winter type thing. He's, well, and I said, well, how much are you watering? He's, well, like 4 times a week. I'm like, it's probably a bit much in December, man. You probably should not, you probably should like back that down. I mean, if you want to water, maybe go to 1 day a week. But in his case, it was obviously the water amount of water he was putting on the lawn that was causing the problem. I don't know how much you're doing, but this time of year, it really shouldn't take that much water to keep the lawn looking good. I mean, in your case, Devin, you guys are do you have irrigation with where you are, or your lawn, or no? They don't have
Yep.
irrigation. Yeah,
Yep.
but do you?
No,
So,
we have irrigation.
so as far as watering during the winter time, like what do you do if anything?
So that's a good question. My irrigation's been blown out since late October.
Okay.
So if I need to water, it's kind of like the front yard doesn't need to get water. I still have snow on it, and it's kind of just the screwdriver test. If the soil's not frozen in multiple spots and you can get it down, then I'll take the impact sprinkler out, and I'll just do each corner of the yard 10 minutes. That's it.
Okay.
So it's not very much. It's just mostly just for that crown hydration, just to kind of keep the plant from drying out from like desiccation. And then that's like what I did today. Even if it's 50 degrees multiple days in a row, that's probably good for 2 weeks.
Right.
So quite a bit different from like how I would water in the summertime. Yeah.
So you think that in most cases, people might be overdoing it with running like irrigation cycles anywhere near like what they do in the spring and summer months?
Yeah. That could be definitely a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we got Bill Stewart. He says, Happy New Year. Is there a way to keep birds from eating my overseed? They were out there partying like 1999 this past fall, left some serious gaps in the project. I see people, they'll put, straw down, obvious, sometimes to help with that. Yeah, but I'm not sure what else.
Just a good top dress over the top to kind of deter them, not just throwing it down on top.
Yeah. So Bill, if you can put the seed out and then a light top dress, rake it all in to where it's just not just sitting there, then that will help. Again, folks, you also use straw to help with that as well too, some, but yeah. And then Ellis says endophytes. That's what it is. He says ryegrass is bred with endophytes to help prevent the spread of weeds. So that's what it releases that kills or that damages Bermuda grass. Cool. Thanks, LG. See, I'm glad you came out of the street and didn't go damage someone's car. So that's good, man. Thanks. Appreciate you coming in and dropping some knowledge on us, man. Good times. All right. Tom Hoffenkamp, he says, I got the hat trick fireball, dark, healthy. It's fire. I sent pics to Ron. I do have a Devin issue with it. Fungus or feeding issue is my guess. Okay, so if you want to see what fireball looks like, then it is, oh man, I didn't actually name it. No, that's not him. Then it is, I'm getting close. Then it's that one. So that's fireball. That's hat trick fireball. It looks good, man. I gotta admit, that is pun intended. Nice. That is fire. That looks really good. That's really good. So cool. All right, Los is up next. He says, hey Ron, what's going on, Los? And then Offroad Envy is back in the chat. He says, finally, Friday, eat, sleep, mow, repeat. Well, not too much mowing going on this time of year, but I get it. I like the sentiment. And then next up, we have Jason Swaby. He says, hello, I was able to get a used push reel mower. I sharpened the blades through backlapping. Both sides of the reel cut paper just fine, but the middle doesn't. How can I fix that? Thanks. It sounds like the bed knife might be.
Usually your bed knife has a bow in it, would be my guess.
Yeah, and how to fix that, Jason? On a manual push mower, I don't know. I don't know if they make replacement bed knives. I mean, I guess maybe you could remove it and try bending it. I don't know. I don't know. On a manual push mower, I'm not sure how to do that. Yeah, on a power wheel mower, we just replace the bed knife. But yeah, on a push mower, not sure. You could try removing it, try bending it, and seeing, trying like straightening it, seeing if that helps. But it just depends, I guess, on how much memory it has as far as being bowed. If it's just going to go right back. So sorry, I don't have a better answer for you on that one. And then Tom Hovenkamp says the chemical and perennial ryegrass that inhibits the growth of other plants is generally referred to as benzoxanoid. Cool. Appreciate it, Tom. And then he says it's a group of compounds released by the roots and plant material that can suppress the germination and development of nearby vegetation, essentially making perennial ryegrass allelopathic in nature. Yeah, so it definitely does it to Bermuda grass, man. I mean, if you want to see Bermuda look absolutely sick, overseed it with ryegrass and just wait till like June timeframe. It just doesn't look good. Really cool, man. Thanks for sharing that, Tom and LG, for chiming in. Good stuff, man. Really, really cool. Appreciate it. Appreciate the feedback. You guys are smart. All right. Next up, we got Tom. He says, melting out. Thank you, Devin. I got to check my fungicides for targeting that. I don't have to deal with that in Bermuda. Yeah, so very well could be. All right. And then John says, I water 1 day a week at 1/4 of an inch in northeast San Antonio, Texas. I mean, that's probably not too much, John. I still would question this time of year if you even really need that much. I mean, it doesn't really take a lot during the winter months to keep Bermuda happy. But if it's only one day a week at a 1/4 inch, that really shouldn't be the problem. All right, Archie's up next. And it looks like this might be our last comment, guys. Unless you guys got more to chat, it might be a short night tonight. He says, Ron, I have had success with Bermuda under trees by raising or cutting the low-hanging branches up 5 feet. Grass grows perfectly because sunlight hits it all day. So that's a good point. Great call out there, Archie. Yeah, so if you can raise the canopy of the trees, so cut them up higher, that can absolutely work. Absolutely works. So good point, Archie.
Good point.
Yep. And then next up is Fresh Apples. He says, hey, Ron, I'm seeing a lot of Poa annua coming up. Should I put down some certainty? I would, yeah, because it's only going to get worse by the time you get into like late January, February timeframe. It's only going to get worse as it starts to warm up a little bit. So certainty and surfactant Fresh Apples. The one thing to keep in mind is the rate for certainty to control Poa annua is quite a bit higher than what you need for sedges. So it comes with a measuring spoon, and a rate that I find works well is 2 of the big scoops per 1,000 square feet. So you can take 2 big scoops. If you're going to dilute that with a gallon of water, that can be fine. Dilute with 2 gallons of water, either way. But I mean, just big thing is 2 of those scoops, 2 large scoops per 1,000 square feet. That equates to the 2 ounce per acre rate, which is what you really need to control Poa annua. So that's the only thing I tell you. If you're going to go with certainty, you got to make sure you're on the higher end of the application rate. There's some guidance in the instructions that tell you that on the label. The label says it's like 1 1/4 ounces per 1,000 on the low end, up to 2 ounces per 1,000. But if you've got Poa that's anywhere like mature where you're seeing it's beginning to flower, then you're definitely going to want to lean more towards that high rate. So hope that helps. Sorry you're dealing with it, but yeah, certainty and surfactant will do the trick. Very, very cool. Well, Devin, as far as I guess any other projects you got going on, we got a few more minutes, and we can cut out. But as for next year, what are you planning to do different next year than you did in this season?
So yeah, that's kind of a good question. I was actually just kind of playing with that. I'm kind of playing with rates and stuff. I'm going to cut some rates and do multiple apps with multiple products, kind of similar to like what you would do with Primo, but even more so like cutting it down to like weekly apps to kind of see how that'll work. Then kind of just playing with like a couple new products to kind of see how that works, and a couple new PGRs that I'm going to give a try. Not 100% sold on that yet, because you can kind of get in trouble if you deep dive into that too quick. So I'm a little apprehensive there because I did Primo last year. I think I was spraying at the 0.6 ounces per 1,000 split app. So every 2 weeks I was doing 0.3, which worked really good. So I don't know if I necessarily need to change that up.
Right.
kind of just playing with rates. I'm kind of just doing some different tank mixes to see how things play with each other. And then verticut and top dressing and doing that all again in the spring, which will be fun until I'm doing it, and then I'll be wondering why I'm doing it. But it should be a good time.
Yeah. Sounds good. I mean, next year, definitely a top dress for the entire lawn, and then the front lawn is going to be, again, zoysia renovation. And I'm leaning towards emerald zoysia. I'm thinking I was going to do El Toro, but I'm leaning towards emerald. I'm thinking that's what I'm going to go with. I got to see if I can find somewhere a supplier here in the Northeast Georgia area that has it, but that's what I'm leaning towards. We'll see.
Nice.
We'll see how it all
I
works
guess
out.
how much pain will you be in after your first couple spray outs when it's looking crispy?
It's gonna be pretty bad. It's gonna be rough. I'm gonna try and get it done earlier in the season than I can than later. So I'm thinking, depending on weather, man, I'd like to aim for like early March. Like,
As soon as you can.
yeah, as soon as I possibly can, maybe on the early side. That way I can still top dress it. That way it won't look as bad. Like, I don't want to do it like in May when Bermuda's looking really good, and then not to kill it. I don't want to be that guy. So I'm gonna lean towards. I'm thinking March time frame. Early March is what I'm shooting for. We'll see though.
Nice.
We'll see. Two Trilla has a question for you. Question for Devin. How familiar are you with Poa annua as turf grass? I saw a video on YouTube and I was thinking about overseeding next year in the fall. So like establishing a lawn of Poa annua.
I don't think I would do that personally. Usually everybody, whether it's cool season or warm season, tries to eliminate POA. But if that's what you want to do, you could just let it go to seed every year and you would never need to seed anything. But I don't think I would establish a POA
No.
yard. There's much better turf varieties to use.
Yeah. I mean, Tutrilla, do you have any idea how much money the turf grass industry spends every year in like research just trying to get rid of POA? And you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna plus your neighbors will love you, I'm sure. You're gonna be a hit. You're gonna be hit with your neighbors if you have a lawn that's full of POA. All right. And Andre Taylor says, evening Ron and Devin community. He says, if you can't beat it, join it. You can beat it, man. I'm telling you, you can beat it. Especially you live in Georgia, so you got warm season grass. Look, this is the way. This is the way. Spectacle flow. Use this in the fall, and then POA is not going to be an issue. I mean, especially if you do a couple of years, it's going to be less and less. And then if you do have some breakthrough, certainty. So like for warm season turf grass folk, we have little reason to have problems with Poa annua in our lawns, other than like, you just being lazy and you want to like, do the products at the right times and whatnot. If you have a cool season lawn, it's a lot more challenging. Like if he has, like Devin has Poa annua in his Kentucky bluegrass lawn, that's tough, because even like the one product that can be used for it, you have to be really careful on bluegrass. Like velocity, you have to be. There's only some cultivars that'll tolerate it. So, but on a Bermuda lawn, yeah, man, Poa annua, that problem has been solved. So I would not like throw up the flag and do that. So. All right, Kevin D. Jones says, "Hey Ron, I'm doing Emerald 2 this year in Georgia. Nice, cool, yeah. So we brothers in Zoysia, Kevin. That's what I'm leaning towards. Here's the way I'm looking at it. Worst case, I'll put it down, and if after a season or so I don't really like it, I can always, rip it out and go back to Bermuda. That's what I tell myself. So we'll see. Well, cool, guys, gals. I think that's pretty much it. Devin, thank you so much for taking some time out. I know it's it's quiet time of the year, but really appreciate you taking the time to come hang out in the live stream. Any parting words? Any sage advice for any of the folks that are planning lawn care products for this year?
No, just have fun with it. Enjoy the process of it. Learn as much as you can, and like Ron said, take as many photos as you can throughout the whole process, and just have fun. I think maybe just 3-4 months for most people, and we'll be out playing in the yards again.
Oh yeah. I mean,
have fun.
Yeah, I mean, you figure we're January, like 4 weeks, somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks. I'll be doing pre-emergent, and I won't be around here. We get going again, assuming Mother Nature cooperates, like March time frame. It really starts getting going. So yeah, March through October. So should be good times. Okay, last question for the evening. This one is for Devin. He says, best pre-emergent for Kentucky bluegrass / tall fescue and a little bit of perennial rye. If you have bare spots, would be better to overseed areas and then pre-emergent 3 to 4 weeks later.
Well, I guess if you're going to pre-emergent, you'd have to use tenacity, mesotridone, I think is the active ingredient in that. Because if you use barricade, it'll inhibit your seed from germinating. So if you're going to germinate, you would have to go tenacity. Usually, you do one or the other.
Yeah, yeah. So tenacity if you're planning to overseed, and then if you're not going to do this, then prodiamine, like barricade is, because that's 3 to 4 months versus like 4-ish weeks or so.
Yep.
Alex. So tenacity would be what you're gonna want to roll with. So you'd apply it and then water it in, and then you're off to the races. And if you're looking to get some, we carry it here on Golf Course Lawn Store. All right, guys. Well, cool. Again, Devin, thanks so much. Always a pleasure. Really appreciate you taking the time to come hang out with us. And yeah, I mean, if you have time later on in the season, like it's a little bit quiet time this time of year, but I mean, come April, like I don't know, probably Marchish time frame, February, March, if you got time to jump on again, it'd be awesome. Then it'll be closer to when folks are going to be having these questions around overseeing, that type of thing. So
yeah, maybe we'll time it late March, early April after I get my all my fall aeration, spring aeration, inverted cutting, and top dressing all done. I'll take a bunch of pictures and we can share that.
Nice. Awesome. Well, again, thanks so much, sir. Enjoy your weekend. I guess we're all going to be either Texas or Ole Miss fans for the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we can get the W. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Well, have a great evening, all. And again, we'll see you guys next week. Take care.